History holds blueprints for machines it should not have known. We are about to explore 25 ancient artifacts and texts that eerily predicted modern technology, from computers to robots, thousands of years before their time. By the end, you will see the timeline of human invention in a completely new and startling way. How did a Greek device calculate eclipses with gearwork rivaling a modern clock? And why did a legendary fire burn on water with a formula lost forever? What does it say about us that our greatest ideas might not be new but remembered? The first and perhaps most famous of these ancient blueprints was pulled from the wreckage of a Roman cargo ship in the early 1900s. Spongedivers off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera found the remains of a corroded bronze lump, its surface encrusted with 2 millennia of sea life. It looked like a piece of junk destined for a museum's forgotten storage shelf. But decades later, as researchers carefully cleaned and examined it, they realized they were holding something impossible. Inside that lump was an intricate assembly of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, precisely cut and mounted within a wooden frame. This was the Antikythera Mechanism. It was a device of staggering complexity. By turning a hand crank on its side, you could set a series of dials and pointers into motion. These dials did not just tell the time of day. They predicted the positions of the sun and the moon against the backdrop of the zodiac. They forecasted solar and lunar eclipses with remarkable accuracy. One dial even tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. In essence, this 2,000-year-old box of gears was a mechanical model of the universe, a portable computer that could calculate celestial events years into the future. To understand the shock this caused, picture the state of archaeology at the time. The ancient Greeks were celebrated for their philosophy, their art, their democracy. But their technology was thought to be relatively simple, based on levers, pulleys, and basic mechanics. Nothing in the historical record hinted at anything like the Antikythera Mechanism. Its gearwork was more sophisticated than anything found again for over 1,000 years, not appearing in Europe until the great cathedral clocks of the medieval period. It forced a complete and humbling reevaluation. The Greeks had not just pondered the cosmos, they had built a machine to simulate it. This was not a toy or a decorative piece. It was a serious computational instrument, a blueprint for a technology that should not have existed for another 15 centuries. If this was what one ship was carrying, what other wonders were lost? The Antikythera Mechanism proves the ancients could conceive of complex machinery, but it leaves us with a haunting question. What if they also held the secret to the power that would drive the modern world and simply chose not to use it? This brings us to our second ancient blueprint, one that hisses and spins with the ghost of an industrial revolution that never was. In the 1st century, in the great library and workshop of Alexandria, an inventor named Hero created a device that should have changed everything. He called it an eolipile. Picture a simple metal sphere mounted on a pair of hollow tubes that allowed it to rotate. 2 bent spouts protruded from opposite sides of the sphere. The sphere was filled with water and a fire was lit beneath it. As the water boiled, steam rushed through the hollow tubes into the sphere and blasted out of the bent spouts. The force of the escaping steam caused the entire sphere to spin faster and faster, a whirling metal globe powered by nothing but heat and vapor. This was not a passive observation. This was a working, physical demonstration of the principles of jet propulsion and steam power. Hero had built the world's first steam turbine, a clear and functional blueprint for the engines that would, 1,700 years later, power factories, trains, and ships across the globe. Yet in Hero's time, the eolipile was not seen as a source of practical power. It was a temple wonder, a fascinating demonstration of pneumatics for philosophers and priests, a divine trick to amaze worshippers. It spun and everyone marveled, and then they walked away. the question of why it never sparked an ancient industrial revolution is one of history's great puzzles. Some point to the abundance of slave labor, making the pursuit of machine power less urgent. Others suggest the metallurgy and precision engineering needed to scale the device into a reliable engine were simply beyond the technological reach of the era. Perhaps the intellectual climate saw such inventions as clever novelties rather than tools for societal transformation. The knowledge was there, the blueprint was drawn in real spinning metal, but the cultural and economic imperative to act on it was missing. The Eolipile vanished into the historical record, only to be rediscovered during the Renaissance and studied with awe by the very engineers who were then building the steam engines of the 18th and 19th centuries. They looked at Hero's simple spinning sphere and saw in it the seed of their own world. It stands as a profound reminder that invention is not just about having an idea. It is about a society being ready to receive it, to see beyond the wonder and grasp the utility. The ancient world had the steam engine, it just didn't know what to do with it. Hero's steam turbine was a public marvel, but our next artifact is a quiet enigma, discovered not in a grand library but in the dusty basement of a museum. In 1936, workers excavating an ancient village near Baghdad, dating to the Parthian period around 2,000 years ago, unearthed a set of peculiar clay jars. Each was about the size of a man's hand, sealed with asphalt. Inside, archaeologists found a rolled copper sheet forming a cylinder, and within that cylinder, an iron rod. The asphalt plug had held both metals firmly in place, keeping them separate yet contained. To Wilhelm Koenig, the German archaeologist who studied them years later, the arrangement looked eerily familiar. It looked like a primitive electric cell. The theory is both simple and startling. If you filled such a jar with an acidic electrolyte, something as common as vinegar or grape juice, a chemical reaction would occur between the two different metals. Electrons would flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder through the acidic solution, creating a small but measurable electric potential between them. Connect several jars together in a series, and you could theoretically produce a usable voltage, enough to generate a faint tingle or a consistent low-level current. This is the so-called Baghdad battery. The implications are tantalizing. What could an ancient civilization have done with such a trickle of electricity? One prominent theory suggests electroplating, the process of using an electric current to bond a thin layer of gold or silver onto another metal surface. Artisans of the time were known for creating gilded objects with an astonishingly even coat, a feat sometimes difficult to achieve with traditional mercury-based fire gilding. Could a bank of these clay jars linked together have provided the gentle, controlled current needed for such delicate work? Other explanations are more mystical. Perhaps the current was used for medical purposes, a form of early electrotherapy to soothe muscle pain, a practice documented in other ancient texts using electric fish. Or maybe it served a religious function, creating a mysterious, divine tingling sensation for priests or initiates during temple rituals, a literal spark of the gods. Yet the Baghdad battery remains one of archaeology's most heated debates. Skeptics argue forcefully that no wires or conductors have ever been found with the jars. No ancient texts describe anything resembling electrical generation. They propose the jars were simply secure storage containers for sacred scrolls, with the iron and copper acting as inert protective casings. The asphalt seal, they say, was just that, a seal. The truth is, we may never know for certain, but that is precisely what makes it such a compelling blueprint. Whether it was a battery or not, the very fact that its construction so perfectly mirrors a basic galvanic cell forces us to confront a possibility. It hints at a culture that was not just observing the natural world, but actively experimenting with its hidden forces, perhaps stumbling upon the fundamental principle of electricity long before names like Volta or Galvani defined it. This unassuming clay pot challenges our timeline. suggesting that the spark of modern power might have flickered, however briefly, in a Mesopotamian workshop 2 millennia ago. The debate over the Baghdad battery centers on a quiet, unseen force, but our next inventor turned his genius toward a spectacle of raw, terrifying power. When the Roman fleet laid siege to the city of Syracuse in 212 BC, they faced not just soldiers but the mind of Archimedes. The legendary mathematician and engineer is credited with devising war machines so advanced they seemed like the wrath of the gods. The first was a monstrous device known simply as the claw. Imagine a Roman quinquereme, a massive warship, approaching the city's seawalls. From a fortified tower on shore, a long wooden arm would swing out over the water. This was no simple catapult. At the end of the arm hung a heavy metal grapple, like the claw of some immense bird of prey. Operated by a complex system of pulleys and counterweights, the arm would drop, the grapple would seize the ship's prow, and then the entire mechanism would heave upward. The sudden, violent lift would raise the ship's bow clear out of the water. Then, just as suddenly, the operators would release the grapple. The ship would crash back down, either capsizing outright or taking on catastrophic amounts of water, its hull shattered by the impact. This was not merely a defensive weapon, it was a machine of psychological warfare. It turned the Romans' greatest asset, their formidable navy, into a source of dread. The claw was a brutal, mechanical predator, a direct precursor to the principles of modern crane technology and naval salvage operations, but used here with devastating offensive intent. It showed a profound understanding of leverage, force, and the vulnerable physics of a floating vessel. Yet, even more famous than the claw is the device that may be more myth than machine, the legendary heat ray. Ancient historians described Archimedes deploying a system of polished bronze mirrors, or perhaps shields, held by soldiers along the waterfront. They would angle these reflectors to focus the intense Mediterranean sunlight onto a single point on the sail or wooden hull of an approaching ship. According to the tale, the concentrated beam would generate such intense heat that the vessel would smolder and then erupt into flames, burning the Roman fleet from a distance. For centuries, this story was dismissed as pure legend, a fanciful exaggeration of Archimedes' reputation, but the idea of a solar weapon proved too tantalizing to ignore. In modern times, multiple teams of engineers and historians have attempted to test its feasibility. The results are fascinatingly mixed. Some experiments have successfully ignited small wooden boats under ideal, controlled conditions, proving the basic optical principle is sound. Others have failed, citing the practical difficulties of coordinating dozens of large, hand-held mirrors on a moving target, the diffusion of sunlight, and the time required to achieve combustion. The scientific consensus leans toward the heat ray being a dramatic embellishment, yet the very act of testing it reveals its enduring power as a blueprint. It directly prefigures two pillars of modern technology: concentrated solar power, where arrays of mirrors focus sunlight to drive turbines and generate electricity, and directed energy weapons like military lasers. Archimedes, whether he actually built it or not, conceived of harnessing light itself as a weapon of war. His two great machines represent a pivotal moment, the terrifying marriage of profound scientific insight with the grim necessities of conflict, pushing the very limits of what his contemporary world believed was possible. Archimedes turned sunlight into a potential weapon, but the Byzantine Empire mastered a far more terrifying and tangible flame. For over 7 centuries, the secret of Greek fire was the ultimate safeguard of Constantinople, a technological advantage so potent it felt supernatural. Imagine a naval battle in the dark waters of the Bosporus. An enemy fleet, perhaps Arab or Slavic, approaches the great city's walls. From the decks of smaller, swifter Byzantine dromon ships, operators man a strange apparatus. It is a bronze tube, a siphon, connected to a heated tank below deck. With a pump and a burst of compressed air, they unleash a stream of liquid fire. This was no ordinary flame. It clung to whatever it touched, whether wood, sail, or the very surface of the sea itself. Water would not quench it, it only seemed to spread the burning. Men who were struck found their armor becoming an oven, the sticky fire consuming them even as they leaped into the waves. The psychological effect was as devastating as the physical one. To face Greek fire was to face a weapon that defied the natural order, a liquid hell that turned the sea into a sheet of flame. The delivery systems were as innovative as the substance itself. The main weapon was the pressurized siphon, a direct ancestor of the modern flamethrower. Operators could aim the jet of fire with precision, sweeping it across enemy decks or hulls. For longer ranges or siege work, the Byzantines used clay grenades, pots filled with the mixture and sealed with a fuse, which could be catapulted onto targets or dropped from walls. They even devised portable hand siphons for soldiers on land. This was not a haphazard weapon. It was a complete and integrated weapons system, combining advanced chemistry with mechanical engineering. And then there is the great mystery, the lost formula. The exact composition of Greek fire died with the Byzantine Empire. We know from contemporary descriptions that it was likely a crude petroleum distillate, similar to naphtha, mixed with pine resin to make it sticky and other unknown chemicals to allow it to burn on water. Some theories suggest quicklime, which ignites on contact with water, or saltpeter, an early form of gunpowder. The precise recipe, the exact alchemy that made it so uniquely horrific, remains one of history's most closely kept and successfully lost secrets. In that loss, Greek fire becomes a profound blueprint. It prefigures modern incendiary warfare, from the napalm of the 20th century to today's thermobaric weapons. Its naval use foreshadowed the strategic control of sea lanes through superior technology. But most of all, it represents the ultimate power of guarded knowledge. The Byzantine Empire understood that true power lay not just in having a devastating tool, but in being the sole keeper of its blueprint, a lesson every modern nation with advanced technology implicitly understands. They held a piece of the future in a bronze tube, and then they took its secret to the grave. Greek fire was a weapon of terrifying spectacle, but our sixth blueprint sought not to destroy, but to listen. In the year 132, during China's Han Dynasty, a brilliant astronomer and mathematician named Zhang Heng presented the court with a device that seemed to possess a supernatural sense. It was a large, ornate bronze vessel, perhaps 6 feet in diameter. Around its circumference were 8 dragon heads, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Crouched directly below each dragon sat 8 corresponding bronze toads, their mouths open in anticipation. The vessel was beautiful, but its purpose was profoundly practical. Zhang Heng called it an earthquake weathercock. We know it as the world's first seismoscope. The proposed mechanism inside was a masterpiece of intuitive engineering. At the heart of the vessel, suspended from its top, was a heavy inverted pendulum. Around this central pillar, but not touching it, were arranged a series of delicate levers or channels connected to the dragon's jaws. When an earthquake's seismic waves, traveling from a distant epicenter, reached the capital, they would cause the ground to tremble. This subtle motion would set the heavy pendulum inside the vessel swinging. But it would not swing randomly. The direction of the initial seismic wave, the primary wave, would push the pendulum toward a specific set of the internal levers. That lever would then trigger a mechanism, releasing the bronze ball from the corresponding dragon's mouth. The ball would drop with a loud clang directly into the mouth of the waiting toad below. The court officials would hear the sound, look to the vessel, and see which dragon had released its ball. That direction pointed toward the region where the earthquake had struck, hundreds of miles away. The genius of Zhang Heng's device was not just its detection, but its discrimination. It could, in theory, sense a quake too faint for human perception in the capital, and it could isolate its direction, providing the first crude but critical data point for disaster response. Historical records tell of an occasion when a ball dropped from the dragon facing west, yet no tremors were felt in the city. Officials were skeptical until days later a messenger arrived from a western province reporting a devastating earthquake. The device had heard the Earth's groan before any human could. As a blueprint, Zhang Heng's seismoscope is breathtakingly direct. It is the foundational concept for every modern seismometer that dots the globe today. While our instruments now use electronic pendulums and digital sensors to measure ground motion with exquisite precision, the core principle remains identical, a suspended mass that remains inert while the ground moves around it, translating that differential motion into a readable signal. Zhang Heng transformed an invisible, mysterious, and deadly force of nature into something that could be measured, tracked, and understood. He gave the Earth a voice and built a machine to listen. Zhang Heng's seismoscope listened to the Earth, but another Roman innovation was designed to defy it and time itself through sheer strength. While the Greeks and Egyptians built wonders from cut stone, the Romans perfected a material that was liquid rock, a substance so revolutionary it reshaped their empire and still baffles engineers today. This was Roman concrete, or opus cementitium. Its formula was deceptively simple. They mixed a slaked lime mortar with an aggregate of brick, rubble, and fist-sized stones. But the true magic ingredient was a fine volcanic ash called pozzolana, mined from the hills around the Bay of Naples. When mixed with lime and water, the pozzolana triggered a complex chemical reaction that modern science is only now fully unraveling. Unlike modern Portland cement, which relies on a quick, high-temperature firing process, Roman concrete cured slowly at lower temperatures over a much longer period. This slow curing allowed a remarkable crystalline structure to form within the mix. The real wonder, however, is what happens over centuries. Modern concrete, for all its strength, has a critical flaw. It is riddled with tiny cracks from the moment it sets. When water seeps into these cracks, it corrodes the steel rebar inside, causing the concrete to spoil and crumble from within. This is why so many of our 20th century bridges and buildings require constant, expensive repair. Roman concrete had no steel rebar. Instead, it possessed a self-healing property. When cracks do form in ancient Roman harbor walls or aqueducts, rainwater slowly infiltrates. This water reacts with the leftover, unreacted pozzolana and lime particles in the concrete. The reaction produces new, needle-like crystals of a mineral called strettlingite. These crystals grow into the cracks, seamlessly filling and bonding them shut. The concrete literally heals itself. This is not theoretical. Look at the Pantheon in Rome, completed around 128 AD. Its dome, an unreinforced hemisphere of concrete over 142 feet in diameter, remains the largest of its kind in the world. It has stood for nearly 1900 years through earthquakes, invasions, and the relentless weight of its own mass. Or consider the Roman harbor at Caesarea Maritima. While modern concrete disintegrates rapidly in seawater, these 2,000-year-old breakwaters are still intact, having grown harder from centuries of exposure to the Mediterranean's salt and waves. For a long time, the precise recipe was lost, a victim of the empire's collapse and the shift to different building techniques. But today, materials scientists are urgently looking back. In labs around the world, researchers are analyzing core samples from ancient Roman structures, using advanced spectrometry to decode their atomic makeup. They are not trying to copy the recipe exactly. Roman concrete takes too long to cure for modern construction schedules. Instead, they seek to replicate its self-healing chemistry. The goal is to create a new generation of concrete, one that incorporates synthetic pozzolanic materials or specially designed microcapsules that release a healing agent when cracks form. This could mean bridges that monitor and repair their own stress fractures, seawalls that grow stronger with each storm, and buildings with lifespans measured in millennia, not decades. The Roman blueprint was not just for building things, it was for building things to last forever, a lesson in resilience we are only now, 2,000 years later, learning to read again. The Romans built for eternity with their self-healing concrete, but another ancient civilization forged weapons of legendary, almost mythical perfection. From the forges of ancient India and the workshops of medieval Damascus came blades so extraordinary their secrets sparked a quest that would last 1,000 years. These were the swords of Damascus steel, and their origin lies in a material known as wood steel. The journey begins in southern India as early as 300 BC, where smiths developed a revolutionary method. They took specific iron ores, rich in trace elements like vanadium, and sealed them with precise amounts of carbon-rich plant material in clay crucibles. These sealed pots were then heated in a charcoal furnace for days at a controlled temperature. Inside, the iron absorbed the carbon, becoming a high-carbon steel ingot. But this was no ordinary ingot. When cooled slowly, it developed a unique internal crystalline structure. These Indian-made wood steel ingots became a prized trade commodity, shipped to centers like Damascus in Syria, where master swordsmiths would take over. Their genius was in the careful, repeated heating and forging of these ingots. They would not simply hammer the steel into shape. They would fold it, draw it out, and reforge it, not to remove impurities as in other techniques, but to carefully manipulate the steel's internal chemistry. This intricate process caused the carbon within to form into ultra-fine patterns. When the finished blade was polished and lightly etched with acid, these patterns surged to the surface, revealing the steel's secret soul. The result was a breathtaking, rippling design like flowing water or a ladder of waves forever frozen in metal. This was not decoration, it was a visual signature of the blade's phenomenal properties. Legend said a true Damascus blade could be bent in a semicircle and spring back to true without taking a set. They were reputed to be so sharp and so resilient they could slice through a falling silk scarf or cleave through an enemy's iron helmet and the skull beneath. The combination of flexibility and a razor-sharp, durable edge seemed to defy the known limits of metallurgy. For centuries, the method was a closely guarded secret, passed from master to apprentice. Then, with the decline of the trade routes and the shift to firearms, the knowledge vanished entirely. By the 18th century, no one in the world knew how to recreate it. The secret became a ghost haunting metallurgists. The mystery was finally cracked open in the 20th century with the advent of electron microscopes. When scientists examined slivers of authentic ancient Damascus steel, they saw something that should not have been there. Embedded within the steel's matrix were carbon nanotubes, incredibly strong microscopic structures of carbon atoms arranged in cylinders. These nanotubes formed around the trace elements from the original Indian ores during the slow crucible process. The smiths, through their meticulous forging, were unknowingly aligning these nanotubes into the patterns that gave the blade its strength and its visible watermark. They were practicing a form of nanotechnology over 1,000 years before the term was invented. This ancient blueprint is now a beacon for modern materials science. Researchers are not trying to make swords, but to understand the principles. The goal is to create new generations of super-strong, lightweight alloys for everything from aerospace components to medical implants, using controlled nanostructures within the metal, just as the Damascus smiths did. Their legendary blades were not just weapons, they were a masterclass in atomic engineering, a lost art we are only now learning to speak again. Damascus steel revealed a mastery of materials at the microscopic level. But our next artifact presents a mystery of communication, a message pressed into clay that has stubbornly refused to speak for over 3,000 years. On the sun-baked island of Crete, in the ruins of the Minoan palace of Phaistos, an Italian archaeologist made a startling find in 1908. It was not a grand statue or a hoard of gold, but a simple fired clay disc, roughly 6 inches in diameter. Both of its faces were covered from the outer edge spiraling inward with a series of strange, precise symbols. There were human figures, birds, fish, plants, and geometric shapes, all beautifully clear, but the truly revolutionary detail was how they got there. Each of the 241 symbols was not carved or drawn. They were stamped into the soft clay with individual seals, like a set of tiny punches before the disc was baked hard. This is the Phaistos disc, and it is one of archaeology's most enduring and isolated puzzles. The immediate implication is staggering. Here, in a civilization from around 1700 BC, someone had conceived of a system of reusable type. Instead of painstakingly inscribing each message character by character, they had created a library of symbols that could be pressed into a medium in any order, then reused to create another message. This is the fundamental principle of printing, yet this single disc appears like a technological mirage. No other example of this stamped technique has ever been found in Minoan Crete. No one has discovered the actual stamps or punches that made it. It is as if a single, brilliant idea appeared, was used once, and then vanished into the dust for 35 centuries until Gutenberg reinvented it. The content of the message is an even deeper mystery. The 45 distinct symbol types have never been convincingly matched to any known written language, Minoan or otherwise. Is it a religious hymn, a legal treaty, a royal proclamation, or perhaps an early board game? Without a bilingual text, a Rosetta Stone for Minoan Crete, every attempt at decipherment remains guesswork. Linguists and codebreakers have proposed theories ranging from an ancient calendar to a narrative poem, but none have achieved consensus. This very isolation is what makes the disc such a powerful blueprint. It is not the precursor to the printing press in a direct historical line. Instead, it is a conceptual leap, a proof that the idea of standardized, reusable symbols for mass communication was possible in the human mind long before the technology to exploit it became widespread. It prefigures not just Gutenberg's press, but the very basis of digital information. Those stamped symbols are akin to a primitive character set, a finite collection of signs that can be arranged to convey complex meaning, much like the ones and zeros of binary code or the letters on this screen. The Phaistos disc is a silent manifesto. It argues that the urge to encode language to make it reproducible and systematic is an ancient and profound human impulse. We may never know what the disc says, but its very existence speaks volumes about the timeless desire to leave a mark that lasts. The Phaistos disc was a message waiting to be read, but some ancient blueprints were designed to perform a miracle on command. Deep within the temples of ancient Egypt, priests orchestrated moments of pure divine theater. As worshippers gathered in the outer courts, they would witness a seemingly impossible event. The massive, heavy doors to the inner sanctum, doors that should have required the strength of several men to move, would begin to swing open of their own accord. No hands touched them, no ropes were visible. To the faithful, it was a direct sign, the God within granting them entry, the very temple coming to life. The secret behind this sacred machinery was not magic, but a brilliant application of physics, meticulously recorded centuries later by the engineer Hero of Alexandria. The mechanism was a masterpiece of hidden automation. Beneath the stone altar that stood directly in front of the great doors, priests would light a fire. This was not for sacrifice, but for science. The altar was not solid. It was a hollow bronze vessel, sealed and connected to a series of pipes. These pipes ran under the temple floor and connected to a large, hidden container of water. As the fire burned on the altar, it heated the air trapped inside the bronze vessel. This heated air expanded dramatically, creating intense pressure. That pressurized air was then forced through the pipes, where it pushed down on the surface of the water in the hidden container. The water, having nowhere else to go, was itself forced through another set of pipes. This moving column of water acted as a hydraulic piston. It flowed into a series of weights and pulleys cleverly attached to the door's pivots. The steady pressure of the water would slowly turn the pulleys, which would then rotate the doors open with a majestic, deliberate grace. After a prescribed time, as the fire died down and the air cooled, the pressure would drop. The water would drain back, the weights would reset, and the doors would solemnly swing shut, seemingly by the will of the god once more. This was not a simple trick, it was a complex, reliable, automated system. It converted thermal energy from fire into pneumatic pressure, then into hydraulic force, and finally into mechanical motion. In that single sequence, the Egyptian priests and engineers like Hero, who documented it, had outlined the core principles behind 3 pillars of our modern world. The automatic doors at your supermarket or airport operate on the same basic premise. A sensor replaces the priest's fire, but the outcome is identical, a door that opens without human touch. The hydraulic systems in that temple are the direct ancestors of the massive pistons that control excavator arms, aircraft landing gear, and the brakes in most cars. Most profoundly, this is a clear, early blueprint for automation itself, the idea that a machine can be triggered by an event, like lighting a fire, and then carry out a complex physical task without further human intervention. A principle that governs everything from robotic assembly lines to your coffee maker's timer. The worshippers saw a miracle, but we can now see the truth. They were witnessing one of humanity's first steps toward a self-operating world. The temple doors moved by hidden hydraulics, yet another ancient culture mastered a far grander scale of invisible engineering. High on the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca people created a canvas so vast it defies comprehension from the ground. Between 500 BC and 500 AD, they removed the dark, sun-baked stones that littered the desert surface, exposing the lighter-colored earth beneath. This simple act of subtraction produced something extraordinary, a sprawling gallery of immense lines, geometric shapes, and elaborate animal figures etched permanently into the landscape. There are straight lines that run arrow-straight for miles, cutting across valleys and hills without deviation. There are perfect triangles and trapezoids large enough to contain several city blocks. And most famously, there are the biomorphs, stylized drawings of a hummingbird with a beak as long as a football field, a spider with legs that seem to crawl across the earth, a monkey with a spiraling tail. These are not rough sketches, they are executed with a precision that suggests meticulous planning. The hummingbird's single, continuous line is flawless. The spider's proportions are anatomically correct for a rare species found in the Amazon rainforest. How did a people without flight, without sophisticated surveying tools, create art they could never hope to see in its entirety? The process itself reveals a form of genius. Archaeologists believe the Nazca used a system of scaling up smaller models. They could have laid out a small-scale design on a prepared area, perhaps using grids of strings or ropes anchored by stakes. Teams of workers would then carefully transfer the design, section by section, to the monumental scale, walking the lines and clearing the stones, maintaining such perfect linearity and proportion over kilometers of uneven terrain required not just labor, but an advanced communal understanding of geometry and perspective. It was a form of landscape engineering on a staggering scale, but the enduring mystery is why. What was the purpose of these colossal blueprints drawn on the desert floor? One prominent theory points to the heavens. Many of the long, straight lines align with the rising and setting points of the sun, moon, and significant stars during solstices and equinoxes. They may have functioned as a vast astronomical calendar, a way to mark celestial events critical to agriculture and ritual in an unforgiving climate. Another compelling idea is that the lines were sacred pathways. Ritual processions may have walked these lines during ceremonies, with the geoglyphs serving as focal points for worship, perhaps dedicated to deities associated with water, the most precious resource in the desert. Some even suggest a connection to underground aquifers, with the lines mapping the flow of unseen water. Regardless of their specific purpose, the Nazca lines represent a profound ancient blueprint. They are a precursor to modern aerial mapping and geoglyph projects. Today, we use satellite imagery and GPS to design and view massive environmental art or to lay out infrastructure like highway systems and agricultural plots from a bird's-eye perspective. The Nazca did the same with human sight, simple tools, and an immense collective vision. They turned their entire world into a page, and on it they wrote a message in lines of stone and earth, a message meant not for themselves but for the sky itself. The Nazca lines were a map written for the sky, but the Vikings faced a far more treacherous and shifting map, the open ocean. Under the endless grey skies of the North Atlantic, where the sun could vanish for days behind cloud and mist, they performed feats of navigation that seemed impossible. Norse sagas speak of a mysterious tool that guided them, a magical solar stein or sunstone. For centuries, this was dismissed as mere legend, a poetic metaphor for luck or skill. But science has now revealed it was likely a brilliant application of a natural crystal, a true ancient blueprint for seeing the invisible. The key was a transparent calcite crystal known as Iceland spar. When you hold a piece of this crystal up to the sky, even on a completely overcast day, something remarkable happens. Due to its unique molecular structure, the crystal polarizes light, filtering the scattered rays that reach the Earth. By looking through the spar and slowly rotating it, a navigator would see a distinct change. The crystal splits the light into two beams, creating a double image. At a specific orientation, these two images will appear with equal brightness. But when the crystal is turned to align with the hidden sun's position, one of the images will suddenly become noticeably darker. The point of maximum contrast reveals the azimuth of the sun, even when it is completely hidden behind the cloud layer. A skilled navigator could take multiple readings at different times of day, cross-reference them with their knowledge of the sun's path, and plot a remarkably accurate course. Modern experiments have put this theory to the test. Researchers have used replicas of Iceland spar crystals under heavily overcast skies and even after sunset during twilight. The results are clear. The method works with a degree of accuracy sufficient for crossing the vast distances between Scandinavia, Iceland, and Greenland. This was not magic, it was crystallography applied to survival. The Viking sunstone is a profound leap in human technology. It is an ancient blueprint for optical navigation, a tool that extracted critical data from an apparently featureless environment. Its principle directly prefigures modern polarimetric cameras, which scientists use to study atmospheric phenomena, map mineral deposits, and even develop vision systems for autonomous vehicles that can see through fog or haze. It is the forerunner of the optical compass. This unassuming piece of crystal demonstrates that the most advanced technology is sometimes not about building something new, but about learning to see the world in a way no one else can, to find a fixed point in a formless sky. The Vikings navigated by reading hidden light in a crystal, but ancient Indian texts describe machines that commanded the sky itself. Within the vast Sanskrit epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, written over 2,000 years ago, are detailed accounts of wondrous flying chariots called Vimanas. These are not vague mythological references, they are intricate technical descriptions. The texts speak of their construction from specific, strong metals, their multi-story designs with portholes and domes, and their ability to ascend vertically, hover motionless, or streak across the heavens at incredible speeds. The propulsion system is described in terms that spark the imagination of modern engineers, mentioning the use of heated mercury and rotating engines, a concept some interpret as a mercury vortex engine. The descriptions go further, detailing advanced weaponry mounted on these craft, weapons that could release beams of light capable of seeking out targets, or projectiles that created explosions bright as 10,000 suns. For centuries, these passages were understood as pure allegory, poetic metaphors for the power of gods and heroes. But in the modern era, a compelling question has emerged. Could they be something more, a cultural memory or a speculative blueprint for a lost, sophisticated technology? the interpretations span a fascinating spectrum. Traditional scholars view them as rich mythological symbolism, representing spiritual ascent or divine authority. Yet other researchers point to the startling specificity. The texts discuss pilot training, flight manuals, and aerial battles with a tactical clarity that feels observational. This has led to speculative theories that the Vimanas might represent a form of ancient advanced aviation, a technology now lost to time, whose principles were preserved in story. These ancient accounts have undeniably served as a powerful cultural blueprint, directly fueling modern UFO lore and the concept of ancient astronauts. More concretely, they have inspired serious, if fringe, scientific curiosity. The described Mercury vortex propulsion, for instance, has led some to investigate unconventional electromagnetic or anti-gravity systems, seeing in the ancient words a hint of a physics we are still struggling to master. Whether myth, memory, or imagination, the Vimana stories perform a vital function. They demonstrate humanity's timeless, burning desire to conquer the sky, to imagine a vehicle that frees us from the ground, a dream that found its ultimate fulfillment in the airplanes and spacecraft of today. They are a testament to the power of the human mind to blueprint the future long before the tools to build it exist. Hero's temple doors were a single, sacred trick, but his true masterpiece was an entire world of motion, a theater that ran itself. In the workshops of Alexandria, he constructed automated stages where myth came to life without a single human performer. The centerpiece was a rotating wooden cylinder, studded with carefully placed pegs and wrapped with a long, complex loop of rope. This rope was not a single line, it was a branching network with knots and hitches placed at precise intervals. Each knot, as the cylinder turned, would catch on a series of levers and pulleys. One pull might open a door on the miniature set, another would lower a painted backdrop of the sea, a third would trigger a weight to drop, striking a drum for a thunderclap or blowing air through a pipe to mimic the sound of wind. Tiny automated figures, their limbs attached to the rope system, would march across the stage, enacting a scene from a legend like the tragedy of Nauplius, complete with moving ships, flashing lights, and dramatic soundscapes. The entire performance, lasting over 10 minutes, unfolded from the programmed sequence embedded in those knots on a single rope. This was not just automation, it was the birth of programmable sequence control. The rotating cylinder with its pegs was a physical read-only memory. The pattern of knots on the rope was the software, a set of instructions telling the machine what to do and when to do it. Every pull of a knot was a command line executed in perfect, timed order. Hero had built a narrative machine, a story told not by actors but by engineering. This ancient blueprint is the direct conceptual ancestor of so much we take for granted. Centuries later, the same principle of pegs on a rotating drum would power the jacquard loom, using punched cards to program intricate fabric patterns. That idea of punched cards would then be adopted by Charles Babbage for his analytical engine, a theoretical mechanical computer, and later by early 20th century computers to input data and programs. The player piano, with its perforated paper roll dictating every note, is a direct descendant of Hero's theater. More profoundly, this is the foundational logic of all robotics and computer programming. It is the idea that a complex series of actions can be broken down into a linear sequence of simple mechanical commands, stored on a medium and executed automatically. Your dishwasher runs through a wash, rinse, and dry cycle based on a programmed timer. A robotic arm on a car assembly line welds, paints, and installs parts in a sequence controlled by digital code. The principle is identical, only the medium has changed from knotted rope to magnetic bits and electrical pulses. In a dusty Alexandrian workshop, Hero didn't just build a clever toy. He encoded the principle of the algorithm into wood and rope, proving that even the magic of theater could be broken down into steps and automated. a revelation that would quietly echo through the centuries until it became the rhythm of our modern world. Hero's automated theater was a marvel of precise control, but it served a single stage. The Roman Empire faced a challenge of an entirely different scale, one that demanded not just control, but conquest over nature itself. They needed to move mountains of water. Across the vast span of their territories, Roman engineers designed and built aqueducts, monumental arteries of stone, and lead that carried fresh water from distant mountain springs directly into the heart of their greatest cities. This was not a single invention, but a complete, integrated system, a blueprint for urban survival that has never truly been surpassed. The core principle was elegantly simple: gravity. From a source high in the hills, water would begin its long, gradual descent toward the city. The genius lay in maintaining that perfect, gentle slope. Roman surveyors, using tools like the chorobates, a precise water level, would map a course spanning dozens of miles, calculating a gradient of often just a few feet per mile. This required an astonishing mastery of topography. When the path met a valley, they did not divert around it, they bridged it. They built towering arcades, those iconic multi-tiered arches of stone that carried the water channel high above the ground, a testament to both architectural grandeur and sheer utility. When the path met a mountain, they tunneled straight through, carving subterranean channels with shafts dug at intervals for ventilation and construction. But their most ingenious solution was for deep, narrow depressions where a bridge would be impractical. Here, they employed the inverted siphon. They would build a sealed lead pipe that ran down one side of the valley across the bottom and back up the other side. Because water seeks its own level, the pressure from the descending column of water would push the flow up the far side, as long as the outlet was lower than the inlet. This required incredibly strong lead piping to withstand the immense pressure, a direct application of advanced hydraulics. The water's journey was not just about transport, it was about purification. Before entering the city, the flow would often pass through massive sedimentation tanks called piscini limarii. Here, the water would slow, allowing sand, grit, and impurities to settle to the bottom. Loose gates allowed engineers to periodically flush the tanks clean, ensuring a relatively clear supply. From these distribution tanks, a network of lead pipes would branch out, feeding public fountains, lavish bathhouses, and the homes of the wealthy. This was a massive, state-funded public works project, a conscious decision to invest in the health and grandeur of urban life. The aqueducts of Rome alone brought over 1 million cubic meters of water into the city every single day, an amount per capita that rivals many modern cities. As a foundational blueprint, their influence is everywhere. The very concept of a municipal water supply, where a central authority manages a clean source for an entire population, is a Roman idea. Their gravity-fed systems are the model for countless water networks today. Their use of arcades prefigures modern viaducts and elevated railways. The inverted siphon is a principle used in everything from plumbing in hilly neighborhoods to the pipelines that cross continental landscapes. Even their sedimentation tanks are the direct ancestors of modern water treatment plants. When you turn on your tap and expect clean water to flow, you are living in a world whose infrastructure was first imagined and built on a colossal scale by Roman engineers. They transformed water from a local resource into a civic right, channeled through stone, proving that a civilization's true strength is measured not by what it takes, but by what it brings to its people. The Antikythera Mechanism was not a solitary miracle. Centuries before that device was lost to the sea, another mind had already built a machine to hold the cosmos in his hands. The Roman orator Cicero, writing over a century after the fact, described a breathtaking artifact crafted by Archimedes himself. It was a celestial sphere, a planetarium of bronze and gears, so perfect it did not just map the stars, it performed them. When set in motion, this sphere replicated the daily rotation of the heavens, but it went far deeper. It showed the sun and the moon tracing their separate paths across the sky, accurately modeling their differing speeds. Most astonishingly, it reproduced the complex, wandering motions of the 5 known planets, those points of light that defy the steady spin of the fixed stars. To an observer, it would have been a miniature universe ticking inside a globe, a silent, mechanical ballet predicting eclipses and conjunctions with a turn of a crank. The genius of such a device lies in what it required its creator to know. To build it, Archimedes needed more than observational skill. He needed a theoretical framework. He had to understand that the seemingly chaotic movements of the planets could be broken down into regular, predictable cycles. He had to translate those cycles into mathematical ratios. And finally, he had to engineer those ratios into the physical relationships between interlocking bronze gears. Each gear tooth represented a celestial period, a year of Venus or a synodic cycle of Mars, meshing together to produce a faithful simulation of reality. This was not a static model, it was a dynamic analog computer. Its output was not a number on a screen, but a direct visual prediction of the sky itself. The tradition of these cosmic machines did not die with Archimedes. Over a millennium later, inspired by recovered classical knowledge, European craftsmen began building elaborate devices called orreries. Named for the Earl of Orrery, who commissioned one in the early 18th century, these were desktop models of the solar system, with geared brass planets orbiting a central brass sun, often driven by a clockwork mechanism. They were teaching tools for princes and philosophical toys for the wealthy, making the abstract laws of Newtonian physics tangible and beautiful. From Archimedes' sphere to the grand orreries of the Enlightenment, this lineage represents a fundamental human impulse to not just observe nature, but to build a working copy of it. Every gear in those machines is a variable, every turn of the axle is the passage of time. They are physical equations solving for the position of celestial bodies through mechanical integration. In this, they are the direct precursors to the most sophisticated analog computers of the 20th century, like the bomb sights used in aircraft or the vast ranger keepers in naval warships, which used precisely machined cams and gears to calculate complex trajectories in real time. Even today, the principle lives on. When a modern astrophysicist runs a supercomputer simulation of galaxy formation, they are doing exactly what Archimedes did, just with silicon instead of bronze. They are creating a dynamic model governed by coded rules, a virtual orrery of unimaginable scale to watch the universe unfold. Those ancient spinning spheres were more than clever toys. They were the first whispers of a profound idea that the deepest secrets of reality might be unlocked not just by thought, but by building a machine that can think it through alongside you. Archimedes' sphere modeled the heavens, but on the winding roads of ancient China, another machine performed a more earthly kind of magic, one that defied the very logic of movement. Legends speak of a magnificent chariot presented to the emperor, perhaps as early as the 3rd century. Atop this ornate vehicle stood the carved figure of a man, his arm outstretched. As the chariot rolled forward, turned left or right, or even traced a complete circle, the figure did not turn with it. His outstretched arm remained unwaveringly fixed, pointing directly to the south. This was the south-pointing chariot, a mechanical compass that required no lodestone. Its secret was not magnetism, but pure mechanical genius. Inside the chariot's housing was an intricate assembly of gears, likely one of the world's first differential gear systems. The wheels were connected to this gear train. When the chariot moved in a straight line, both wheels turned at the same speed, and the gears transferred this motion in such a way that the figure remained stationary. But when the chariot turned, the wheels would rotate at different speeds, the inside wheel covering less distance than the outside one. This difference in rotation drove the differential gears, which then precisely counter-rotated the figure on top. The system created a perfect mechanical feedback loop, automatically correcting the figure's orientation to cancel out every turn the chariot made. For every degree the chariot turned left, the gears turned the figure 1 degree to the right, ensuring his arm remained locked on its celestial target. This was not a simple toy, it was a profound achievement in automatic control. In an era before magnetic compasses were widely used for navigation, this device provided a constant, reliable cardinal direction. It was invaluable for long military campaigns across featureless plains or for ceremonial processions that required precise cosmological alignment. The chariot served as a moving landmark, a piece of the fixed cosmos riding on a cart. As a blueprint, its implications are staggering. The differential gear at its heart is the same fundamental component found in every modern automobile today. It allows your car's drive wheels to rotate at different speeds when you take a corner, preventing skidding and ensuring smooth control. More profoundly, the principle of mechanical feedback control, where a system's output is measured and used to automatically correct its error, is the bedrock of modern engineering. It is the principle behind your home's thermostat, which senses temperature and triggers the furnace to maintain a set point. It is the core of cruise control in your car, which adjusts engine power to hold a steady speed. And most significantly, it is the foundational concept for inertial navigation systems used in aircraft, submarines, and spacecraft. These systems use gyroscopes and accelerometers to sense every turn and change in velocity. Then a computer continuously calculates the vehicle's new position, just as those ancient gears calculated the figure's correction. The south-pointing chariot was a mechanical brain, solving a complex problem of orientation in real time, using nothing but wood, bronze, and sublime geometric insight. It proves that long before electronics, the ancients had already mastered the logic of automation, building a machine that could think for itself about where it was in the world. The south-pointing chariot calculated direction with gears, but in the same Alexandrian workshops, Hero of Alexandria engineered a device that calculated something far more social, the value of a coin. It was an automatic wine dispenser, a machine of pure, pragmatic genius. A patron would approach a sealed vessel, likely set up in a temple or at a festival. At its top was a slot. The user would insert a bronze coin. The coin's weight, falling onto a carefully balanced internal lever, was the key. That initial pressure would trip the lever, which acted like the release on a modern vending machine. The lever's movement would pull open a small valve just for a moment. From a separate storage tank, a precise, pre-measured amount of wine would flow out through a spout into the waiting cup below. Then, as the coin continued its fall off the lever, the system would reset. The valve would snap shut, the lever would return to its ready position, and the coin would drop into a collection box. The transaction was complete, automated, and honest, a single coin for a single serving, with no bartender in sight. This was not just a clever party trick, it was the world's first fully functional vending machine. Its blueprint is breathtakingly direct. The coin is both payment and power source, its weight providing the mechanical energy to initiate the cycle. The lever and valve system is a primitive but effective logic gate, a physical if-then statement. If coin is inserted, then open valve for duration X. The measured portion is a form of standardized output, ensuring consistency every single time. In that simple mechanism, Hero encoded the core principles of an entire industry that would lay dormant for nearly 2 millennia. Today, we are surrounded by the children of this ancient idea. The snack machine in an office hallway operates on the same fundamental contract: insert currency, receive a standardized good. The modern self-service kiosk at an airport or a grocery store is a digital evolution where a touchscreen and credit card reader have replaced the coin and lever, but the transactional autonomy is identical. Even the automated teller machine, a device that dispenses not wine but currency itself, follows the same conceptual blueprint, a secure, automated interface that provides a valued commodity in exchange for an authorized token. Hero's wine dispenser was more than a convenience. It was a radical idea about commerce and trust. It proposed that a machine could be a merchant, that human interaction could be removed from a simple exchange without sacrificing fairness or function. It was a blueprint for a world where service could be available at any hour, untethered from human fatigue or whim. In a temple in Alexandria, for the price of a bronze coin, you could buy a drink, and though you would never know it, a glimpse into an automated future where machines would hold our goods, our money, and our trust. The wine dispenser offered a measured dose of refreshment, a simple comfort. But in the blistering heart of the Persian desert, ancient engineers tackled a far more fundamental human need, the quest for coolness itself. They did not fight the sun with machines, but with architecture, turning the very elements of heat and wind into tools for survival. Their first invention was a structure of stunning simplicity and effectiveness, the yakchul. From a distance, it looked like a giant domed clay beehive rising from the sand. This dome was not solid. It was built from a special mortar called sarouj, a mixture of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, and goat hair that was remarkably resistant to heat transfer. Beneath this insulating dome lay a deep subterranean storage pit. The process began on cold winter nights. Canals would bring water from nearby mountains or the Kanat system into shallow, rectangular pools next to the yakchul. The frigid desert night air would freeze this water into sheets of ice. Workers would break up the ice and haul it down into the deep storage pit, packing it in layers separated by insulating straw. Over the winter, they would amass a small mountain of ice inside the chamber. Then, as the scorching summer months arrived, the thick clay walls and the towering dome worked together. The sarouj mixture acted as a powerful insulator, blocking the external heat. The tall, conical shape of the dome also promoted a clever airflow, with hot air rising and escaping out of a vent at the very top, drawing cooler air from the base of the pit upward. This created a natural refrigeration cycle, preserving the ice through months of extreme heat. Communities could then draw from this reservoir, using the ice to preserve food, make chilled desserts, or simply provide relief from the oppressive temperatures. It was a desert freezer powered by winter nights and clever physics. But the Persian mastery of climate did not stop underground. To cool the living spaces themselves, they developed an elegant architectural feature known as the bagia or wind catcher. These were tall, tower-like structures rising from the roofs of buildings, often with multiple openings facing the prevailing wind. The design was a marvel of passive ventilation. As a breeze entered the openings high above the ground, it was funneled down a central shaft directly into the heart of the home. But here was the true genius. Often at the base of this shaft would be a small pool of water or an underground channel connected to a kanat. The dry, hot desert air, as it descended over this water, would undergo evaporative cooling. The water would absorb heat from the air as it evaporated, dropping the air's temperature significantly before it flowed into the living quarters. Some sophisticated bagias even had multiple shafts, using convection to create a continuous cycle, drawing hot air out of the building while pulling cool, moistened air in. A home equipped with a wind catcher could be 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than the searing air outside, a sanctuary carved from the wind itself. These ancient systems are not mere historical curiosities. They are masterful blueprints for sustainable living. The yakchul demonstrates the principle of thermal mass and evaporative cooling, using the earth itself as a heat sink. The bagia is a perfect model of passive ventilation and evaporative cooling, requiring zero energy input beyond the natural forces of wind and water. Today, in an era of climate crisis and soaring energy costs, architects and engineers are looking back to these Persian designs with renewed reverence. Modern green buildings incorporate tram walls which absorb solar heat during the day and release it at night, a concept mirrored in the yakchul's thermal mass. Contemporary designs feature solar chimneys and wind scoops that operate on the exact same principle as the bagia. using natural convection to cool structures without air conditioning. The ancient Persians did not have the power to generate cold, so they learned instead to borrow it from the night, to trap it in the earth, and to summon it from the wind. In their silent clay towers and domes, they left a blueprint not just for comfort, but for a harmonious and sustainable way to live within our environment. The Persians mastered the art of staying cool, but on the other side of the world, an entire civilization was built around watching the sky with an obsessive mathematical precision. High atop the limestone platforms of the Yucatan Peninsula, the Maya did not just observe the stars, they built stone machines to track their every move. At Chichen Itza, the structure known as El Caracol, the snail for its spiral interior staircase, stands as one of the most sophisticated ancient observatories ever discovered. This is not a simple tower. Its design is a deliberate puzzle of alignments. Narrow, slit-like windows in the upper chamber are not placed randomly. One frames the extreme northern setting of Venus, the brilliant evening star the Maya revered as both a god and a portent of war. Another aligns with the summer solstice sunset. The entire building itself is skewed 27.5 degrees from the main ceremonial plaza, an angle that matches the northernmost setting point of Venus. Every stone seems calculated to catch a specific celestial event. This was architecture as a precision instrument, a permanent fixture in the landscape designed to harvest data from the heavens season after season, century after century. The data they collected fed into a system of timekeeping so advanced it borders on the obsessive. The Maya did not have one calendar, they had several, interlocking like the gears of a cosmic clock. Their primary solar calendar, the Hab, was 365 days long, divided into 18 months of 20 days plus a short, unlucky period of 5 days. But they knew this was not perfectly accurate. A solar year is roughly 365.242 days, so they ran a separate, sacred calendar called the Tzolk'in, a 260-day cycle of 20-day signs combined with 13 numbers. These two calendars would cycle together, only realigning every 52 years, a period known as a calendar round. But their true masterpiece was the long count calendar, a linear count of days from a mythical starting point. This system allowed them to calculate dates thousands of years into the past or future with flawless accuracy. Their tracking of Venus was particularly stunning. They calculated its 584-day synodic period, the time it takes to return to the same point relative to the Sun as seen from Earth, and found it averaged out to 583.92 days. Their recorded error was a mere 2 hours over 500 years. To achieve this, they needed a mathematical language powerful enough to handle such vast cyclical calculations. This is where they made one of history's great intellectual leaps. The Maya developed the concept of zero as a placeholder centuries before it appeared in India and the Islamic world. Their number system was Vajsimal, based on 20, and they used a shell symbol to represent zero, allowing them to write numbers in vertical place value columns just as we do. This was not abstract philosophy, it was a working tool for scribes and astronomers to compute monumental intervals of time. As a blueprint, Mayan astronomy is foundational. Their architectural alignments prefigure modern observatories, where the entire building is designed to house and orient a telescope. Their interlocking calendar systems are a direct conceptual forerunner to our own Gregorian calendar with its leap years and centuries-long corrections, a way of forcing the messy, fractional reality of planetary orbits into a usable, human-scale grid. Most profoundly, their obsessive tracking of Venus and other cycles represents an early, rigorous form of orbital mechanics. They were mapping the predictable rhythms of celestial bodies long before Kepler formulated his laws of planetary motion. They understood that the universe ran on a schedule, and they dedicated their greatest minds and their most enduring stones to deciphering its timetable. In the silent windows of El Caracol, we see the birth of a scientific mindset, one that believed the cosmos was not a chaotic mystery, but a complex, beautiful machine whose code could be cracked with patience, stone, and a shell symbol meaning nothing, which gave them the power to calculate everything. The Maya built stone calendars to track the cosmos, but a single Greek philosopher needed a far more personal and immediate kind of punctuality. Plato, the great teacher of Athens, faced a timeless problem: students who slept through their morning lectures. His solution was not a stern rebuke, but a machine. He adapted a common timekeeping device of the era, the clepsydra, or water clock, and transformed it into the world's first known alarm clock. The mechanism was a masterpiece of simple cause and effect. Imagine a large vessel with a small, regulated hole in its bottom, suspended above a second, lighter container placed on one end of a balanced scale. As the night began, the upper vessel would be filled with water. This water would drop by steady drop into the lower vessel on the scale. For hours, nothing would happen but the soft, rhythmic plink of water. This was the timer counting down. Eventually, the accumulating weight of the water in the lower vessel would become too much for the counterweight on the other side of the scale. The scale would tip. This action would trigger the alarm. As the scale arm swung downward, it might release a string holding a handful of pebbles, or it could directly tilt the vessel itself, causing its contents to cascade onto a waiting metal plate below. The sudden, clattering crash of stones on bronze would shatter the morning silence, a rude but effective mechanical herald for the start of the day's philosophical inquiries. This was not a device to tell the time of day, but to mark a specific, predetermined interval. Plato had engineered a delayed action, a consequence set in motion hours in advance. The real genius lies in the conceptual framework. His water clock alarm is a pure expression of the if-then statement that governs so much of our automated world. If a specific amount of time passes, measured by a consistent physical process like the flow of water, then trigger a specific event like making a sound. He had broken down the abstract notion of later into a mechanical sequence. This ancient blueprint is the direct ancestor of every time-based trigger in your life. The obnoxious beep of your smartphone alarm each morning is a digital echo of those pebbles hitting bronze. The timer on your oven that chirps when the cookies are done operates on the same fundamental principle, substituting an electronic oscillation for the drip of water. But the influence runs far deeper than simple alarms. This concept of a measured delay leading to an action is the core logic behind automated scheduling systems that run our world. The programmable thermostat that lowers the heat at night and raises it before you wake is Plato's water clock applied to temperature. The software cron job that sends out a mass email at exactly 8 a.m., or the automated trading algorithm that executes a stock order at a precise moment, these are all spiritual descendants of that Athenian drip. Plato wanted to wake sleeping students, but in doing so, he encoded a fundamental rule of the modern age: that time itself could be harvested, measured, and used as a tool to command the world around us. Plato's alarm clock measured the passage of time, but in the face of injury and illness, time is often measured in pain. The ancient world had an answer for that too, not in philosophy, but in cold, precise metal. When Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii in volcanic ash in the year 79, it preserved more than just homes and frescoes. It froze a moment of Roman medical practice in terrifying detail. Excavations have uncovered collections of surgical instruments of such sophistication that they would look perfectly at home in a modern sterilized tray. These were not crude implements, they were specialized tools, each designed for a specific, delicate task. There were scalpels with razor-sharp steel blades, some with interchangeable handles. There were finely toothed bone drills called trepans for relieving pressure on the brain or cutting into skull bone. There were a variety of forceps, some with smooth tips for removing small objects, others with sharp, interlocking teeth for extracting arrowheads or bone fragments. There were catheters, hollow tubes crafted from bronze designed to relieve blockages, and perhaps most strikingly, there were vaginal and rectal speculums with screw mechanisms that allowed a surgeon to gently dilate an opening for examination, a design that remained virtually unchanged for over 1,500 years. These instruments reveal a medical mindset that was shockingly advanced. They were not general-purpose knives and pincers. They were a toolkit for a professional who understood human anatomy and the need for precision, cleanliness, and minimizing trauma. The materials mattered. Bronze and steel could be polished to a smooth finish, resisting corrosion and allowing for easier cleaning. The designs show an ergonomic understanding, with handles shaped for a firm grip and balance that would reduce a surgeon's hand fatigue during a long procedure. This was a blueprint for a systematic approach to healing through intervention. Roman medicine, influenced heavily by Greek knowledge, combined these tools with detailed texts on procedures, from setting broken bones to amputating limbs, even describing early forms of plastic surgery for repairing ears and lips. They understood the importance of sterilizing instruments in boiling water or vinegar, and used opium and mandrake root as anesthetics to dull the agony of their work. While their understanding of infection was limited, their commitment to technique and technology was profound. The legacy of these instruments is not a direct line, but a foundational concept. They established the principle that healing could be actively assisted by specialized, purpose-built hardware. Every time a surgeon today reaches for a hemostat to clamp a blood vessel, they are using a direct descendant of Roman forceps. The modern speculum, the dental drill, the orthopedic saw, all echo with the design logic first hammered out in a Roman workshop. These ancient tools represent a pivotal shift from seeing the body as a mystery to seeing it as a system that could be studied, understood, and repaired. In the ashes of Pompeii, we find not just tragedy, but the cold, comforting glint of a promise that human ingenuity could be turned inward, not just to build empires, but to mend the fragile vessels that carry us through them. The surgical tools of Pompeii were designed for precision within the body, but on the other side of the world, an emperor demanded perfection for his final journey. Deep within the vast, unexcavated tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, a silent army of terracotta soldiers stands guard. Yet, in a nearby pit, archaeologists uncovered a different kind of marvel, a pair of exquisite bronze chariots. They are not mere sculptures, but fully functional, half-scale models of the emperor's actual processional vehicles, each assembled from thousands of individually cast bronze components. To look at them is to see breathtaking artistry, but to study their construction is to uncover a masterclass in ancient mechanical engineering, built not for war, but for the smoothest, quietest ride into eternity. Every element of these chariots reveals an obsessive focus on reducing friction, wear, and noise. The wheels are a masterpiece alone. Their spokes are not simply wedged in, they are fitted with bronze bushings at the hub, a sleeve that minimizes the grinding of wood against wood as the wheel rotates. The axles are perfectly round and smooth, machined to a tolerance that would have required advanced lathe work, but the most telling details are the smallest. The chariots feature complex harness systems with interlinking bronze rings and chains, each link meticulously crafted to move freely without excessive slack that would cause jarring or clattering. Where components meet and could potentially vibrate against one another, the artisans included specially designed spacers and liners, thin sheets of bronze or even traces of organic material that would act as primitive gaskets and dampeners. This was vibration control engineered into bronze. The goal was clear: to eliminate the cacophony of a typical wooden chariot, that relentless racket of squeaking, rattling, and banging that would have been beneath the dignity of a godlike emperor. They sought a silent, gliding procession, a symbol of power so absolute it moved through the world without discordant sound. In these mechanisms, we see the foundational principles of modern noise, vibration, and harshness engineering, known as NVH in the automotive industry. Those ancient bronze bushings are the direct precursors to the ball bearings and sleeve bearings in your car's wheels that allow them to spin smoothly for tens of thousands of miles. The spacers and liners are the conceptual ancestors of rubber motor mounts, which isolate the engine's vibration from the chassis, and the padded brackets that keep every interior panel from buzzing on the highway. The implications stretch far beyond luxury cars. The same principle of isolating components from shock and friction is critical in aerospace, where every rivet and panel must withstand incredible vibration without failing. It is essential in the design of precision machine tools, where even microscopic chatter can ruin a machine part, and in the sensitive mounts for telescopes and satellite instrumentation, where absolute stability is non-negotiable. The artisans of the Qin dynasty, in their quest for a silent, majestic ride, were solving a fundamental problem of mechanics: how to preserve the integrity and function of a complex system by managing the chaotic energy within it. They understood that true sophistication in motion is not just about moving forward, but about controlling everything that movement creates, especially the noise. In those silent bronze chariots waiting in the dark, we find a blueprint not for conquest, but for smooth, quiet mastery, a standard that still drives the finest engineering in our world today. The silent chariots of Qin were feats of precision, but another ancient invention solved a problem of brute force with elegant simplicity. In the sun-scorched fields of the Nile Delta, farmers faced a relentless challenge, lifting water from the river to their thirsty crops without backbreaking labor. The solution, attributed to the mind of Archimedes, though likely refined by him from earlier designs, was a device of profound utility: the water screw. Its form was beautifully straightforward, a long wooden cylinder angled upward from the water source to the field. Inside this cylinder, a giant spiral blade, like a continuous thread, was fixed to a central shaft. A worker would stand at the top and turn a crank. As the shaft rotated, the bottom end of the spiral would dip into the river. The magic was in the geometry. Each full turn of the screw would trap a pocket of water between its blades and the cylinder's wall. That pocket would then be carried up the incline, held in place by gravity and the spiral's embrace, until it reached the top and poured out into an irrigation channel. It was a continuous flowing ascent, a river persuaded to climb a hill one turn at a time. The genius of the Archimedes screw lay in its robustness. It had no delicate valves to clog with silt, no complex pistons to wear out. It could be built from wood or metal, scaled up or down, and operated by human, animal, or even water power. It transformed agriculture, turning arid land into fertile green, and became indispensable for draining water from mines and the bilges of ships, a machine that quite literally kept civilizations afloat. Its principle was so perfectly sound that it never became obsolete. Today, in modern wastewater treatment plants, you will find massive, polished steel Archimedes screws lifting torrents of sewage from lower settling tanks to higher filtration stages. They are chosen for the same reasons the Egyptians valued them. They handle thick, debris-filled fluids without jamming, and their steady, predictable flow is perfect for process control. In vast agricultural regions from the American Midwest to the rice paddies of Asia, electric-powered screws still lift water for irrigation, a 3,000-year-old design humming with modern energy. But the legacy of that spiral blade extends far beyond water. Engineers realized the same principle could move solid materials. This evolution created the screw conveyor, a workhorse of global industry. Inside factories and processing plants, these powered screws, now often enclosed in metal troughs, tirelessly transport everything from grain and flour to coal, cement, and plastic pellets. They feed ingredients into mixers, load materials onto ships, and move products along assembly lines. The simple act of a rotating spiral inside a tube has become one of the most reliable methods for moving granular matter across the planet. From the hand-cranked wooden lift in an Egyptian field to the giant conveyors in a cereal factory, This ancient blueprint demonstrates a timeless truth. The most enduring inventions are often those that find a perfect physical harmony with the problem they solve, a harmony so fundamental it echoes through the ages unchanged. That spiral blade moved water and grain, but one Egyptian temple carving seems to hold a different kind of power entirely. In the crypts beneath the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, a strange bas-relief has ignited a firestorm of speculation. Etched into the stone over 2,000 years ago, the image shows a large, elongated bulb-like shape. Inside this bulb stretches a wavy line like a serpent. This serpent is held aloft by a pillar, and from the base of the bulb, a cable seems to run to a box, beside which stands a figure who appears to be operating the device. To a modern eye, the resemblance is uncanny. It looks for all the world like a giant, ancient light bulb, complete with a filament and a power cord. This is the Dendera light, and for proponents of alternative history, it is a smoking gun, proof that the ancient Egyptians possessed electric lighting, perhaps explaining how they illuminated the deep, windowless interiors of tombs and pyramids without covering every surface in soot from torches. Mainstream Egyptology offers a very different and far more symbolic interpretation. The temple at Dendera is dedicated to Hathor, goddess of joy and motherhood, but also deeply connected to creation myths. Egyptologists identify the bulb not as a technological object, but as a lotus flower, a potent symbol of rebirth and creation in Egyptian art. The serpent inside is not a filament, but the god Harsomptus, a manifestation of the sun god, often depicted as a snake emerging from the lotus to begin the daily cycle of creation. The pillar is the Jed pillar, representing stability, and the cable is actually a lotus stem. The box is a shrine, and the figure is a priest or deity performing a ritual of offering or activation. In this view, the entire scene is a religious tableau, a story carved in stone about the moment light, in the form of the sun god, is born from the primordial waters represented by the lotus. This stark clash of interpretations makes the Dendera relief a perfect case study. It demonstrates how powerfully our modern perspective shapes what we see in the past. We live in a world illuminated by glass bulbs and powered by hidden currents, so when we encounter an ancient image that vaguely resembles that technology, our minds leap to fill the gap. We project our own reality onto the symbols of another culture, often stripping them of their original religious, mythological, and artistic context. This is not a new phenomenon, it is a recurring pattern in how we engage with ancient mysteries. Yet, the very intensity of the debate is telling. The fact that so many people look at that carving and instantly see a light bulb speaks to a deeper, almost wistful question that runs beneath all these 25 blueprints. It is the question of lost knowledge. Could an advanced understanding of energy, now forgotten, have once existed? The Dendera light does not prove that it did, but it powerfully illustrates why we are so compelled to ask. It stands as a reminder that the most intriguing ancient blueprints are sometimes not the clear instructions, but the ambiguous symbols that challenge us to separate what was actually built from what we desperately wish to believe was possible. From the silent chariots of Kin to the spiraling water screws of the Nile, this journey across 25 ancient blueprints has taken us from the depths of the sea to the edge of the cosmos. We have seen gears calculate the heavens, steam spin metal spheres, and clay pots that may have held an electric spark. We have watched temple doors swing open by fire and water, and desert lines drawn for the eyes of gods. We have held silent messages stamped in clay and swords forged with nanotechnology, navigated by polarized light and cooled by the desert wind, each one a fragment of a forgotten future. The common thread weaving through them all is not a specific technology, but something far more profound, the relentless drive of human ingenuity. It is the urge to measure what seems immeasurable, to control what feels uncontrollable, to see the invisible patterns in the world and then build a machine to prove we understand them. This creative spark, this desire to bend reality to our will through tool and thought, transcends any single era or empire. It is a constant in the human story. So what are we to make of these echoes from the past? Were they brilliant curiosities, one-off marvels that shone brightly and then faded because the world was not ready? Or were they pieces of a deeper, more widespread knowledge that was tragically lost in the fires of library burnings and the silent collapse of civilizations, a true dark age of technology? Perhaps they point to something else entirely, a cyclical nature of invention where great ideas are discovered, forgotten, and then rediscovered centuries later, each time adding a new layer to an ancient foundation. The truth likely holds pieces of all three. These blueprints challenge our linear view of progress. They whisper that the path of discovery is not a straight line upward, but a spiral, where we sometimes circle back to principles understood long ago, seeing them with new eyes and new purpose. They remind us that genius is not owned by any one age, so we turn the question to you. Of these 25 glimpses into a world that knew more than we often credit, which blueprint captured your imagination the most? Was it the cosmic clockwork of the Antikythera Mechanism, the self-healing promise of Roman concrete, or the terrifying, lost formula of Greek fire? Share your favorite in the comments below and let us know which historical mystery we should explore next. If you have enjoyed this journey through the artifacts that predicted our world, be sure to subscribe. The past is filled with more puzzles waiting to be solved, more blueprints waiting to be read. Keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, the next great idea might not be something new, but an ancient whisper finally